We're following some news coming out of the 7th and Hill area. Crews are still on the scene right now of what looks to be a warehouse fire, specifically at 12th Street and Burnett in the Park Hill area. We're told the call for this came in around 4:30 this morning, and fire officials did have it under control shortly after. But you can see a lot of firefighters were on scene there trying to make sure that stayed under control, monitoring hotspots. No reports of any injuries as of right now, but we will keep you updated as we move through the morning.
In our other top stories here this morning, former Louisville Metro Detective Brett Hankison will be back in a federal courtroom today for the start of his retrial in connection to the Breonna Taylor case. Hankison is accused of violating the rights of Taylor, her boyfriend, and her neighbors when he fired into her apartment from the outside on March 13th, 2020. His first federal trial ended in a mistrial, and he was previously acquitted on state charges. During a hearing on Friday, both sides reviewed potential jurors. Jury selection is expected to continue today.
I asked my kids to forgive me, not being honest with them about where the money was spent, where it came from. My dishonesty with them has caused them all great emotional pain and suffering.
Jamie Knoll will spend the next decade behind bars. The former Clark County Sheriff broke down in the courtroom offering apologies for stealing money from the Utica Township Volunteer Firefighters Association and New Chapel EMS.
Jim Stratman joins us live this morning with details. And Jim, the judge in the case did express some reservations about the sentencing.
Yeah, he wanted to make sure that this didn't open up to an appeals situation where that means Knoll could potentially face less time in jail. He told Knoll to his face in court yesterday that some people in the community wanted him to suffer for what he had done. And in fact, some of those people who wanted him to suffer were in the courtroom yesterday, and they spoke to Knoll, giving witness impact statements. 20 people gave those witness impact statements, talking about how Knoll's actions affected them individually, some even blaming the deaths of their family members on him because of slow response times from New Chapel EMS. The stories brought tears to Knoll's eyes at times yesterday. The former Clark County Sheriff took the blame for everything before Judge Medlock ultimately accepted the state's plea agreement.
With reluctance, I will accept the plea agreement. Everybody wants you to do a lifetime in prison. And maybe that's what you deserve. But the law will not allow me to do that.
Will next spend the next dozen years of his life behind bars, followed by 3 more years of probation. He's also set to pay more than $3.2 million, most of that going to the Utica Township Volunteer Firefighters Association. And Knoll is not finished in court yet. He's also facing separate lawsuits filed by the Indiana Attorney General's office, as well as New Chapel EMS. They want him to pay back even more money than what he already owes. Now, coming up in the next half hour, we're going to hear from some of the victims of Knoll's who spoke in court yesterday. Eric, Grace.
Jim, thank you so much. Now, before the judge in this case made his decision, he heard from people who were affected by Knoll's deception. The testimony that seemed to affect him most came from the ex-wife of his late brother.
Karma is coming for you, and I hope you realize how bad this upsets me. Have fun in prison because you deserve it. Yeah, that's what I want to see right there, is you crying.
You can see Jamie Knoll's full 6-minute statement and apology, and Judge Medlock's full comments on our WHAS11 YouTube page. It is right there at the top of that page.
Murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Michael Steele Empson Hurley, guilty.
The man accused of running down a Kansas family on a downtown sidewalk in 2022 has been found guilty. It took the members of the jury 2 hours to reach a verdict for Michael Hurley. They found him guilty on 5 charges, including the murder of Trey Jones.
Can't put it in words. Every day he's gone, and he took care of us, and there's just this huge void that we can't fill, and we'll never be able to fill.
Jones' wife, Amy Jones, was back on the witness stand yesterday. She was emotional as she remembered her husband, who died from his injuries. That came after days of testimony last week when Amy and her daughter Ava spoke about the difficult path to recovery and the lifelong scars from the crash. Hurley faces as long as life in prison. The jury could finish deliberations today on a recommended sentence. The court will then allow victim impact statements to be read. Hurley's sentencing is expected to come at a later date.
Family members of the Louisville pilot who was injured in that crash in St. Matthews say he is making progress but still faces a long road to recovery. His name is Evan Peel. He broke several bones and suffered burns Friday when his plane crashed on Breckenridge Lane near Kresge Way. Evan and a student pilot, Jessica Dice, were flying when their plane lost power. Peel took over the controls trying to get it back to Bowman Field, but instead went down on Breckenridge Lane hitting a car. Dice was able to walk away from the crash, but Peel is still in a local hospital. He's been through several surgeries in the last few days. We'll mention he had just closed on a house. His family has set up a GoFundMe account to help cover expenses while he's unable to work. If you'd like to help, you can find the link to that in our links mentioned during newscast list on our homepage.